Could war break out near the Strait of Hormuz? Back in 2019, the Gulf saw a series of attacks against oil tankers. After a relatively quiet 2020, partly due to the global pandemic, tensions are now heating up again. The latest attack in the strategic waters have killed 2 people. The US, UK, and Israel are pointing the blame at their usual suspect, Iran.
The Mercer Street tanker in calmer waters before it was attacked by a suspected suicide drone.
Tanker off the coast of Oman. Tehran calls the allegations baseless, but with neither side backing down, is this escalating shadow war finally emerging from the darkness?
So what started it all? The attacks, which Iran has always denied, started in 2019. Then US President Donald Trump had withdrawn from the Iran nuclear deal and followed up with crippling sanctions. Between May and June of that year, 6 oil tankers and a US drone were hit. The following year, Iranian forces boarded a British vessel. The Strait of Hormuz has been a hotbed ever since.
Right, Caleb, at least 4 ships potentially running into trouble and having lost contact and potentially having lost control of their ships.
It looks like there's been mines laid in the entrance to the Gulf there, which is something that Iran has done before. It did extensively during the Iran-Iraq war, for example.
The Strait of Hormuz is the world's energy choke point. 18 million barrels of oil passed through the strait a day in 2020. That's about a third of the globe's total waterborne oil. The world's largest oil exporters, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait, rely almost entirely on this passage for their economic livelihood. Its narrowest point is around 34 kilometers wide, making it one of the tightest and busiest shipping lanes in the world. It's not hard to imagine how a conflict in these waters could trigger a global energy crisis. Given the importance of keeping shipping lanes open, the US has maintained a military presence here for decades. In 2020, the US moved 3 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers near the strait as a show of force against Iran. But countering Iran's naval forces has been tricky. Unable to match the might of America's sea power, Iran has focused on smaller speedboats equipped with missiles, a technique that has been dubbed a form of guerrilla warfare at sea. The naval branch of Iran's Revolutionary Guard has been blamed for disruptions in the strait, including the mysterious attacks on tankers. This asymmetric naval capability has proven to be a headache for America, and it's one of the few deterrents Iran has left.
It really goes back to 1988, when the Iranian Navy was largely destroyed by the US Navy right at the end of the Iran-Iraq War. After that, they, and particularly the Revolutionary Guard Corps, recognized they could not win any kind of conventional naval engagement with a major Western state, and certainly not the United States. And it is since then that they've been developing these more asymmetric methods, using speedboats, probably using small submarines and the rest, to threaten the Straits of Hormuz, in part to put pressure on the Americans and even the Saudis to take the kind of policies that Iran would prefer.
So Iran's ability to disrupt the strait is the main card it can play in pushing back against sanctions over its nuclear program and Tehran's support for regional proxies. US sanctions have battered Iran's economy, with its currency experiencing a freefall since 2018. In response, Iran has carried out acts of retaliation, both covert and overt. Earlier this year, a South Korea-flagged ship carrying petrochemicals was detained by Iran. It was over $7 billion of Iranian funds that were frozen by Seoul because of US sanctions. The latest attack on an Israeli-operated tanker was reportedly in response to a recent Israeli strike on an airport in Syria, where Iran is backing the regime. And in the most recent incident, a Panama-flagged ship was reportedly hijacked, Tehran was again blamed. Iran's Revolutionary Guard dismissed the allegations as a pretext for hostile action. Although Iran continues to deny its involvement, the US, UK, and Israel won't be convinced and could be gearing up for a response. And given the strategic importance and vulnerability of the Strait of Hormuz, one misstep or miscalculation could quickly escalate to all-out war, a war that could literally turn off a huge part of the world's energy supplies.